we can go right ahead and talk about the matchup between Jokic and the matchup between Victor Wembanyama. So obviously, these two players are some of the best players in the league, arguably the top four centers in the league. Yes, I do think Victor Wembanyama is top four. I just don't see any center doing what he's doing, and he's only a rookie, so he can only get better as time goes on, or like we can only assume that he's going to get better, especially with his length and his ability on the offensive side of the ball, because one thing that makes both of them like so impressive to watch is just how much they could fill up the stat sheet and how often they fill up the stat sheet. Because Victor, like being so tall, like obviously he's going to be able to get every single rebound over every other player given given the height difference and the length difference. But not only that, he's also able to get blocks very, very well, as he showed in this previous game. And he's also been able to get a lot of good steals because of his length. And because he's been able to get so many blocks, he averages 3.4 in the season, and he already has more blocks than the last three Defensive Player of the Years combined. So, which is a crazy stat for a rookie to accomplish. And with this in mind, it really shows like how dangerous like the Spurs are going to be over time. He ended the game with 23 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists, and 9 blocks. So he was just 1 block away and 2 assists away from getting a quadruple double as a rookie. And this is a stat that not many players in the NBA can accumulate. Now, obviously, like there are certain players who could, and like with how talented the league is, there's been like a growth of those amount of players. But 9 times out of 10, no one's going to really get close to dropping a quadruple double, let alone as close as Wembanyama was, and especially as a rookie. Like the only players in the league that I think could get a triple double are, a quadruple double are Jokic and Victor and LeBron, and players that essentially could do everything on the court. And there's not really that many players that could do that, both offensively and defensively. And that's what makes Victor Wembanyama just that much more valuable, because not only is he a value for the offensive side of the ball as a rookie, but he's also tremendously valuable on the defensive side with his length and his presence constantly affecting players at the rim. Now, Victor wasn't the only center to play last night, but he was getting most of the media coverage from last night. He always seems to get more media coverage, but I'm surprised he got more coverage than Jokic did coming into this night, because Jokic, he ended up finishing with 42 points and 16 rebounds. So obviously, like he did outplay Victor in this game, and he didn't shoot that well from 3, shot 1 for 6 from 3, but it doesn't really matter. He ended the game with 42 points. I don't know what more you could ask from your MVP. And yes, I do think that Jokic is going to win the MVP this season, regardless of how well Luka Doncic is playing. I definitely think that Jokic is, like, what he's done throughout the season and leading the Denver Nuggets to the 1 seed, I feel like that's much more impressive than what Luka Doncic is doing, while he's leading the Mavericks to like the 6th seed at the moment, or the 5th seed, depending on like how much they flip-flopped between these previous games, because the rankings, they always change when you're in the Western Conference. So right now they're the 5th seed, and they look to be playing the Clippers in the first round. So that's going to be an interesting matchup for the first round. The Mavericks going up against the Clippers yet again. It seems like they always match up against each other in the playoffs. And that could be bad news for Luka, honestly. But back to the matchup at hand. The final score was 110 to 105. The Nuggets ended up winning. Obviously, like the Spurs, they were already eliminated from playoff contention, so there's no real hope coming in from them. And the Nuggets, they increased their win total, and they continue to hold that 1 seed. They are tied in the 1 seed between I think they're tied between the Timberwolves, and that's about it. No, they're about to be tied with the Timberwolves and the Thunder because right now the game difference is point 0.5 in the between the 1, 2, and 3 seed. So the Timberwolves have one less game played than the Nuggets, and so do the Thunder. So there's a possibility that the Nuggets might not even make the 1 seed and they might make the 3rd seed. Again, the race is still relatively close, so we'll see how things go in that department. But now, obviously, both of these centers are relatively young. They're like, even though Jokic, like we've seen his dominance for a while in this league, he's still a relatively young player, and he still has a lot more time in this league. So I don't think this game wouldn't be considered like a passing of the torch, in the sense that like Jokic is going to like stop playing after the season, but it might be considered a passing of the torch later on as the year progresses, or like as the rest of the NBA seasons go on, because maybe Jokic will not win the MVP anymore and the MVP will go to a different center, Victor, or something of that nature. Now, obviously, it's a little bit too early to say that Victor is going to win the MVP, but with how he's progressed and how he's been playing, it's really a crime not to, because like if he's not like already the rookie of the year, I don't know what your problem is. Like, if you don't think that Victor already won rookie of the year, there's something wrong, because he's already proven that he is the best rookie to come out of that class. He's already proven that he's better than Chet, given how they matched up against each other. He's already proven that he's better than the rest of the class that got drafted along with him, and he's lived up to the hype that the media put on him since day one. So with that in mind, I don't understand why he wouldn't be the Rookie of the Year, and I also don't understand why he wouldn't be the Rookie of the Year unanimously. Like, I feel like he should be the rookie to win it unanimously. And LeBron didn't win Rookie of the Year unanimously. I'm not entirely sure if there's ever even been a Rookie of the Year that won it unanimously. I'm going to go ahead and check right now. Here. Because usually there's only been one MVP who has won it unanimously, and that was Stephen Curry. So 5 players have won the Rookie of the Year unanimously: Ralph Sampson, David Robinson, Blake Griffin, Damian Lillard, and Karl Anthony Towns. So if he does this, he'll join that list of players to win Rookie of the Year unanimously, and he'll also join David Robinson again in that list. And it's kind of ironic how Victor Wembanyama is already on a bunch of lists with Tim Duncan and David Robinson, given how all 3 of them are big men, and all 3 of them were drafted first overall, and all 3 of them have played for the San Antonio Spurs. And when you take all of that into account, they share like a lot of similarities between each other. There's a lot of like parallels that you can draw with their careers. And like for example, David Robinson, he was one of the few players in the NBA to get a quadruple double, and he was also one of the few players to score 70 points in a game. Meanwhile, you could also look at Tim Duncan, how he was one of the only few players to almost get a triple double with blocks, and he almost got a quadruple double with those blocks as well. And you look at Victor Wembanyama and his height, and it's like he could definitely do all of the things that those centers have done before him, if not better, with how much more they're getting the ball. Because Tim Duncan and like David Robinson, it could be argued that they were both system players, because the Spurs team as a whole, when they were playing, were really good, and they played within the system. But now, with how offenses operate in today's NBA, there's a chance that Victor Wembanyama could be the system. And with one individual player, with one player constantly having the ball in their hands, it allows them to accumulate better stats. And with those better stats, like obviously they're going to break a lot more records because they're accumulating much more stats. And that's something that we could see Victor do that we haven't seen any of those other centers do. So the trajectory for Victor and his ceiling is much, much higher than the ceiling that Tim Duncan has already set. And that could be good for a player, but that could also be bad, because one of the things that the best way to compare the type of hype and media coverage that Victor is getting is to compare it to LeBron's hype and media coverage, because LeBron, when he was going into the league, he was thought of as the next Michael Jordan, and he was the next sort of chosen one for the NBA. And with that hype came a lot of expectations. Now, lucky for LeBron, he was able to not only meet those expectations, but ultimately surpass them and become the best player that the league has ever seen. So that sort of same expectation is being put on Victor right now. And it could make or break a player, and it's all dependent on how the player handles the media, and it's all dependent on how the player handles himself. And we don't give enough credit to LeBron for doing that. And we make it seem like it's this easy thing that every NBA player can do, but it's really not. So we're going to see if Victor Wembanyama is made out of that same stuff that LeBron is made out of. But with that, we are out of time for this second segment. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the third segment, where I give a quick recap of all the NBA games that went down from last night. Starting with the Lakers, since we are talking about LeBron and them beating the Raptors. So again, I will be right back after this short break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube